Hello and welcome back to the World News Program. I'm your host Adithya Dattatreya. Before we get going, a warning that some images and themes in this program may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Our focus today is on Italy, where women's rights activists have made their mark on the Spanish Steps monument in Rome, where they've poured paint all over it. Activism of this nature isn't new in Europe, but tensions have reached a boiling point. The European Women's Lobby reports that 83% of young women aged between 16 to 29 in the European Union avoid certain situations or places for fear of being physically or sexually assaulted. In the UK, violence against women and girls accounts for at least 16% of all recorded crime. This places a significant demand on policing, and that comes from the National Police Chiefs Council. A UN Women's report reveals that less than 40% of women who experience violence of any form seek help. This is a pressing issue for the nearly 16 million women in the UK set to vote in the general elections on July the 4th. To best aid that process, let's have a look at various party manifestos, at least as it pertains to violence against women. The Conservative Party manifesto plans to address violence against women and girls as a top priority for the police. They want to do so by establishing new and stricter laws and punishments. As of now, those laws and punishments have not been made clear. Keir Starmer's Labour Party have pledged to restore neighbourhood policing. They promise to recruit thousands of extra officers who will focus on tackling violence against women and girls. The Liberal Democrats, the last government that was in coalition with the Conservatives, aims to establish a Women's Justice Board with specialist training for all staff who will come in contact with women in the criminal justice system. The Green Party has pledged to widen its existing campaign to end violence against women and girls. However, trust in the UK politicians to resolve violence against women through policy implementation is at an all-time low. One survivor shared her thoughts on Sky News.
Long term, I think the only solution to tackle violence against women and girls is preventive education, preventive measures where everyone knows what is abuse, what is misogyny.
This problem isn't unsolvable. A seminar conducted by UN Women featured Amber Peterman, a researcher on gender-based violence. She shared some examples of how different types of social protections has addressed violence against women around the world.
So those are just some kind of concrete examples of how these different types of social protection could play out to address a gender or violence lens.
Yet we find ourselves at a crossroads. All UK politicians agree that violence against women needs to stop. But the public doesn't trust either of the two frontrunners in this election to solve the problem. This sentiment is reflected in the polls. A YouGov poll from earlier this year revealed that 50% of respondents don't trust the police to tackle violence against women. The same poll suggested that nearly 60% don't trust Labour to solve the issue, and 75% don't trust the Tories to tackle it. This leaves the nearly 16 million women voters in a precarious position. With the general election just 2 weeks away, this lack of enthusiasm by female voters was reflected in the final leaders' debate of this election, where one female voter asked both leaders this question.
Good evening. How can I ensure that if I vote for either of you two men, you'll put women's interests first?
While both leaders focused on protecting women's spaces, the issue of violence against women was not explicitly mentioned by either of the two leaders. For the latest news and more of the election coverage, stay tuned to the World News Program. I'm your host Adithya Dattatreya. Goodbye.